name is Adam Rudell. I am a Senior Support Escalation Engineer for Microsoft, focusing on the Azure Stack Hub and software-defined networking solutions. Wanted to take the opportunity today to discuss about the network controller, and specifically the network controller northbound API endpoint, and how that endpoint is exposed to your clients or applications within your environment. So, the most common one, which majority of environments I see are deployed with, is what's referred to as a dynamic DNS deployment, meaning that in the event of the replica moving from one network controller to another, the API service will perform a DNS registration to update the northbound API record within your infrastructure. Now, in some instances, this is fine. Other instances, there may be additional security hardening, complexities with third-party integrations, or any number of factors. And so, there may be, in these instances, it might be worthwhile to switch over to a static IP configuration. What this will enable network controller to do is, in the event of a failure where the replica moves to another network controller node, the API service will just program a secondary IP on that node without needing to do any DNS registration calls. This is a little bit more fault tolerant in my experience, and I wanted to discuss how you can, if you're looking at deploying a new environment, how you can set this, and likewise, if you have an already existing deployed environment, how you can go about changing from a dynamic DNS scenario to a static IP. So to start off, the first part comes down to if you're looking at deploying a new SDN environment, the main thing you want to be aware of is within your configuration template, and I've just got the sample template open right now, is you'll want to declare the REST name. If you just have the REST name declared, this will enable the dynamic DNS registration. Likewise, if you declare a REST IP address, this will configure the static IP scenario. Now, make sure, if you're looking at deploying this, make sure that you are using the latest version of SDN Express. So, go to GitHub, pull that down, or go to PowerShell Gallery, install that latest module, and make sure you're using the latest updates out there. Now, this will handle new scenarios or new deployments where you are looking to leverage this. Now, let's talk about existing environments. So I've got my lab here. This is SDN deployed using nested virtualization. There's actually a colleague of mine, Vincent, who is a EE in Windows, who has this published out on GitHub. It's called SDN Nested. It's super helpful if you want a sandbox environment where you can, quickly deploy, delete, test modifications without too much overhead. So I would, I'll include a link at the end of the video. So I would highly recommend to check that out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to check on my network controller to see what my current setting is. So on network controller, you can run git network controller, and this will print out some details related to our network controller cluster. Specifically, I'm looking for REST name, and so here we have nc northbound.sdn.lab. So in this scenario, in the event of a primary replica failover, the API service, when it moves to a new node, will be responsible for updating the northbound record to point to itself. I want to go ahead and change this to a static IP. Now, unfortunately, with the current set network controller commandlet, you can't just switch from a REST name to a REST IP address. You'll actually get some errors. But what we've done is gone ahead and integrated the functionality into the SDN diagnostics module that is downloadable from PowerShell Gallery, NuGet.org, as well as it's hosted on GitHub. So what I want to do is I'm going to jump over to DC01 and I am going to install the SDN diagnostics module. The reason I'm jumping over to my DC01 is my other SDN fabric nodes they have slow internet connection, so it's a little bit more performant installing from here. And this will be helpful for you, especially if you're a dark site or disconnected scenario where you may not have all your infrastructure nodes exposed directly to the internet. So once I got this module installed, I'm going to go ahead and import this into this run space. Now I still need to get this module over to my network controller, and you can do this using a function within SDN Diagnostics that's designed to seed the module over to any additional computer that you may need. So I can go install SDN Diagnostics, computer name, and I'm going to go ahead and specify my network controller 1. So at this point, the module has been copied over, and on my network controller, I can go ahead and import module SDN Diagnostics, and we can see that this is now here. Let's go ahead and clear the screen. So the main commandlet within here is similar to like the set network controller. There is a set SDN network controller commandlet. This also has full help if you want to see how to run this. So we're going to go set SDN network controller, and in this case I'm going to set a REST IP address. Now the one thing to be mindful of this, especially in existing deployments or new deployments, is that this IP address must be within the same subnet as your network controllers, but cannot be one that's already in use. So you'll want to make sure you plan accordingly. In this case, all my network controller clusters have a .14, .15, and .16 IP, and so I'm going to go ahead and set it to a .12, which is not currently in use, and it allows me, if I want to add additional network controllers down the line, I'm not having to skip over this one. So I'm going to configure 10.184.108.12, and then I'm going to specify my subnet prefix here. So you get a disclaimer, this is preview. Specify yes to proceed. And then you'll get a warning to let you know that what this operation is going to do. And this is going to actually go and perform some async operations to delete some of the properties and then allow reconfiguration. This does take roughly around 20 to 30 minutes because after this operation, as part of this operation, we do call set network controller, which will initiate a service fabric cluster upgrade. So I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. So at this point, it's deleting the current REST URL property or the REST name, and it's inserting a temporary IP address for the time being, and we're just going to pause for 30 seconds just to make sure all that has processed through into the system correctly. Alright, you can see here now it's calling set network controller with the REST IP address. And you'll see here a dialog box open up and indicate that it's performing the operation. So this will take, like I said, 20 to 30 minutes for this to complete. And so we'll just wait for this to run through and do its operation. All right, and so now we can see that the operation has completed, and we returned the output back from Get Network Controller. And we can see now the REST IP address has been updated. Now the last part to do in this situation is we need to go and update our DNS record to reflect that new address. So let's just go and refresh this. I've got my NC northbound. I'll just take this record, set to 12, and we should be good at this point. Now, what I want to do is we can test to make sure that this is accessible. So the easiest way to do this is from a client machine or somewhere else remote. You can do, so I'm just gonna flush my DNS, and I'm gonna just do a basic get SDN resource call to my northbound API. So and resource we'll look at, in this case it should be credentials. So this point we're getting our northbound response back like we would expect. So that means our DNS is resolving properly. You can also come back over here to your network controller, and you can double check which network controller is hosting the Service Fabric replica for the API service. Get SDN Service Fabric. We want Service Fabric replica, service type name, API service, and I just want the primary one. So in this case, we can see NC03 is hosting the primary for the API service. If I want, I can jump over into NC03. That might be let's format that. So you can see we've got adapter, we've got the 10.184.108.16, which is the main one. And then now you can see we have the secondary IP as well configured. And so in the event that you move the replica or you take down a replica that's hosting the service for maintenance or update, this floating IP will be configured on the new replica that takes over. One thing to be mindful of is on those new SDN Express deployments, you'll need to make sure that you've configured that northbound API static record before you start the deployment. Otherwise, your deployment will fail if it can't access that API endpoint. So just something to be mindful of. All right, so now that we switched over to a REST IP address, if you do want to revert the changes, or you want to switch back to the Dynamic DNS model, that is also available. So you just go set SDN network controller, and this time we're going to specify the REST name switch. So this is not configurable option. What this is going to do is it is going to set the REST name to whatever you have your server certificate for. So in this case, this is the nc northbound.sdn.lab. So if you do specify the set SDN network controller, rest name. This is just a switch, and it will program this one. But anyways, hope this demo and discussion helps you out. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.